Okay, can you guys hear me? Sorry. My mic, the program, I don't know, something happened. Sorry for the chimes. Sorry, yeah, something was going on with my mic. Okay, we're good. Can you guys hear me? Just want to check one more time. Okay, cool. Yeah, obviously I'm gonna give people a few minutes. I do want to mention something. I was thinking about Neville yesterday. Not necessarily what he said, but what he did. And I want to just talk about it in a second. I'm just gonna give people like 5 minutes to show up. You know how it goes. Moon Veal. I don't think I've or Veil. I don't know. I always get those confused. Are you new? I don't think I've seen your name. Obviously, you can't be new because like you have a yellow thing, right? Wait, is this public? I think this is public. I think it switched over to public again. Yep. Hold on. Why did it do that? Hold on. Oh, that's an accident. Should I just leave it public? Wait a minute. Why does it do that? I kind of need to know. Because it's been doing that to me lately. Hold on. Why does it do that? What about the chat? Is the chat only for members? It looks like how does hold on a second. Sorry guys. Give me 1 second. Why does it do that? Participants? Nope, that's not it. How do I edit to where there's only members in the chat? But why? Why is it doing that? It switches over to public every time I go live. Yeah, participant modes. But where does it say live chat? YouTube wants more traffic. Okay, I mean, I guess we can just leave it. I don't know. Okay, let me switch this over. Maybe I can make it for a little bit. We'll do anyone can comment for a second. We'll just leave it the way it is. I don't know. We'll change it up, I guess. If it gets a little hectic, I'll just switch over. Yeah, I turned it off for a second. I'll let everybody just kind of comment. Yeah, I was thinking about I was thinking about Neville yesterday, and I get asked sometimes, like, what is something that Neville has said that is that like you find freeing or something, but I can come up with a bunch of quotes and we can discuss that, but it's actually something in what Neville has done in his life that has, if you imply a message behind it, it's actually, he kind of comes at life already with self-compassion. Like, for example, if you were to move from one state to another state, whatever state it is, it doesn't really matter. You have to have Neville would say, I can move into one state into a new state, like as if I didn't even fall out of a state. So if I was in a good state and I fall out of it, he goes, I'll move back into the good state as if I never fell out of it. And that requires some sense of compassion, some sense of self-compassion. It's implied. A lot of Neville's work, it's like he comes at it already implying that you have self-compassion, right? Which is a bit different than, yeah, I guess listening to somebody who doesn't do that. So it's not so much than what Neville has said. It's like if you were to move quickly inside yourself, you will realize that when you have compassion It's almost like a fluid that makes the self run better. Remember, there's no one to change but self. So how can I change myself effectively? Well, compassion would be at least an ingredient that matters. And it looks like Neville just kind of automatically comes at life from that perspective because he's able to move so fluid within himself, right? He's not, because when you don't have compassion for the past self you were, for the last state you were in, you're going to have resistance in the self. You're not going to move into the state that you actually want to be in. And you're going to come up with a bunch of reasons for the resistance. That's always going to be subjective to you. It's because you're not worthy, or you don't think that you can have it, or it's not for you, or you've never seen anybody around you in that state of mind. And so you think that state of mind is off limits. If we all keep everything mental, then we can see that it's actually kind of silly to think that some things are off limits to the dreamer. That doesn't make any sense. It's like saying there are just certain dreams that are off limits, right? Which just isn't true. If you just observe your imagination as like a place that you're in, you'll see that there really is no dream that is off limits. Good or bad, it doesn't really matter. And so what Neville is doing by being able to move states within himself, he's actually keeping himself, I guess, very fluid. He's not, he doesn't apply that he was the past state as himself. He sees it as a state he was in. And that's why the last 3 days I've been putting online that you are the imagination in a body. And someone messaged me and they said, this is the third time you've said that. But it's important that I'm saying that, because if you don't realize that, if you don't realize that you're the being behind the state, then you're going to have way too much resistance within you to move into a different one, because you're basically claiming that's who you are. And we're just investigating the I am within us. What is it? If it precedes it, does it precede a state? And it does. So how can I move effectively into a different state? I just noticed that Neville has self-compassion. Just by what he's saying, if you apply what he said and you practice it, you have to have self-compassion. There's no other way. Or grace. Grace, if you have to give yourself grace. That's another way of saying the same thing. You can't have self be constrained by a state that you don't want to be in. And so if you have shame, it's just a lack of self-compassion. And so that's why you have resistance within yourself to move into a different place inside of your own imagination. I kind of didn't explain that as well as I want to. I'm just a little jarred by the public thing. Hold on, I'm trying not to look at the chat, because when I look at it, I forget what I'm saying. I'm going to come back real quick. You opened the chat for the public. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I mean, that was an accident. I figured, why change it at this point? Do you believe in reality shifting, like to a fictional reality? What do you mean by, like, do I believe in it? I haven't found it matters much. Just from what I've seen, most people who claim these things just come right back here. So, yeah, I don't know how much I buy it. It depends. Like, I've definitely have felt myself in different places inside myself, like in a dream, right? And that can feel extremely real, and it can feel independent, and I can experience it as if it's independent, just like this world. But I come back here, right? I'm bound to this body. I think the reason birth rates are going down because people of our time have awakened due to the access of this information, due to social media. What's your opinion? I do not think the reason people are not having children is because of this work. I don't think so at all. No, people probably aren't having kids for many different reasons. I don't think it's because of this. Is there something you disagree with Neville on? I don't know if I would frame things as disagreements. I would say that when it comes to his ideas of the afterlife, I don't fully. They somewhat make sense to me, but since I haven't really experienced it, I can't say I agree, but then I can't say I disagree either. It'd be kind of hard for me to say otherwise because I don't know. It's more like I don't know certain things that he's talking about rather than I disagree with it. I'm open. I haven't experienced it myself, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't even think many people know about Neville's work. I think it's a pretty niche thing. Like, how many people are studying Neville that you know? Most people are just going to church, or they're just like a cultural religious person. Most people don't care about this stuff, and I don't. I mean, I find it weird that people don't care about it because I understand that Neville gets mixed in a lot with law of attraction teachers. But to me, Neville's very different. If you just read Neville just as Neville, I was fortunate enough to have that happen. I didn't read anybody before him. I found out about the other teachers later, and I understand Neville was influenced by these people. But later on, Neville's very much his own. He's teaching his own thing. Like, you don't really hear anybody talk about his experiences with Scripture. Like, no one else talks about that. Not like him. Yeah, so it's not so much about something that Neville has said. It's more about if you just pay attention to, if you apply what he is saying, the way he does it, you have to okay, for example, when I started realizing that he would move into a state, and if he fell out of it, he would move back into it as if he didn't fall out of it, as if he didn't even remember he fell out of it, no matter the time length. When you try to do that, you realize that it just involves self-compassion. It just involves a level of care for oneself that you have to grow in order to reach his I guess way of thinking. It's like almost the way he does things implies a lot of self-compassion. That he might have not worded it that way, but I don't know what else to call it, or grace. It's like it just implies so much. Do you think religion can ever have a place in this? I want to keep my cultural Catholic tradition, but knowing this, I can't go back into believing in an outside God. I mean, you can certainly. I mean, I'm not the arbiter of that, so I can't even really answer that. But I think I get what you're saying. Like, could you be a part of Catholic services? Of course you can. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to participate in something you don't believe in. But my question to you is, why would you want to participate in something you don't believe in? Why do you want to pursue something you don't believe in? Maybe you have a good reason. I don't know it, but it just seems like maybe we should try to pursue what we do believe in. I was reading Neville the other night, and he was saying it's not about convincing other people that you imagined something or that you felt the imaginal act as real. He goes, if you felt the imaginal act as real, and then I come up to you and tell you that it's a lie or that I'm not convinced, it should make no difference to you. Because if you're convinced by it, it doesn't matter what I say, right? And so it's really just about believing this because, like, what do you believe is true for you? What is it that you believe in? Why support something you feel is false? Unless you do believe in it. It doesn't make sense to me. Why not just, like, when I come on here, I'm not trying to convince you of imagination. I'm telling you what I think is true. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't make a difference as far as what I think about it. What we're trying to do is if you go outside of yourself into reality, you'll bump into obviously people. You'll bump into social systems. You'll bump into government systems. You'll bump into a universe. You just keep going bigger and bigger and bigger. But the more you go smaller in the same world, you actually, I would say this. You actually go, the smaller you go, you actually eventually go internal. And the more internal you go, you bump into a foundation. You bump into dreams. And the foundation of a dream is God himself. Now, this is where my understanding is at a limit, because what I find is that this being that we are, like, for example, if you had a dream, if let's say you have a vision tonight and the vision really related to your life, you could say that God gave you that dream, right? You can label it as God, because even though it happens in you and it is you doing it, you didn't sit down and devise the dream that you're experiencing. It doesn't feel that way, at least, but in a sense you are. So there's a part of us that's really deep that creates the dream that we're having. That, to me, that's the foundation of a dream. That, to me, is the foundation of reality. Is this imaginal being is the core of reality. It's an imaginal, I don't know what else to call it, an imaginal self. And we are the members of that, is what Blake said. We are the one imagination with billions of faces. And we, as the imagination in these bodies, fall into states of mind. And to move into different states of mind, it requires some sense of compassion towards the self. That's how the self works better. But to me, the foundation of a dream, Neville, you can call it a dreamer, but you called it Christ. But it's really, if you think of it, it's got to be some type of dreamer, some being that we aren't always aware of, and yet we're one with it. Because at some point, if you start to achieve the things you want in life, you're going to hit a certain limit, and you have to start asking yourself deeper questions. Not just what item do I want, but who am I really? Am I an imaginal being, or am I simply a physical being? Or am I both? And which one am I more? But what I've come to the conclusion just by simple observation of myself is I dream a lot. I dream the moment I wake up. I dream when I sleep. I dream more than I eat. I dream just as much as I breathe. And so I find man to be inherently a dreamer. What he dreams is up to them. I mean, whatever entertains you. But never forget that you're the being that's dreaming it. The moment you lose yourself in that, you've lost self. You're going to become very panicky on the inside. Hey, Edward, no notification ever popped up for me. Yeah, that happens sometimes. It's YouTube. What's your favorite Neville lecture? I don't know. Usually I go through phases. Right now, the one that popped up was Counting the Cost. I really like that one. I just read your chapter, What Else, the other day, and it really points to you towards indulge and deepen the depth of your imagination. Yeah, you want to go deeper than just simply imagining simple pleasures. To me, at a certain point, you have to start asking yourself, just even if you don't have an answer, at least just ask, why was I born in a world like this? Will I be born again in a different world? Will I have a different body? Or is this the only body? What is the heavenly body that Neville's talking about, that you'll be born again into? Neville says this body will be made of imagination, that we already one with it. And we rooted ourselves in this body. And the Bible actually doesn't really claim a good or evil about it. It says that you came here and you're going to experience sensations. You can claim pleasure and pain are just simply sensations. And you have to wonder, what is the purpose of all of that then? And here's what you discover is that the imaginal being in us that we are has the power of transfiguration. What that means is that it can just take anything that's ever happened to you, no matter how terrible, and you can find the good or create the good in it. You can transfigure the thoughts that you have into something that benefits you, no matter how terrible. Because Neville says the fool exploits the world, the wise transfigures it. But to transfigure something is to take what it is and turn it into something else. And you do that with yourself. You don't remove yourself from this world. You transfigure yourself into something that you want. That's what the imaginal man does. And in us to be like him, we start doing it here, now. It doesn't judge after the appearances of things. So I think of it that I must become like the imaginal being that is in me. And the imaginal being that's within me is a dreamer, and it believes. It just does. And I must mimic it. And it walks by faith, not by sight. So you take yourself where you're at, and you imagine yourself where you want to be. And you really have to ask yourself, do you believe it? Is the new book coming out on Audible? Yeah, I'm still working on the Audible. Do you plan on talking more about the promise in the future? Yeah, I will. Yeah, I tried to make a 40-minute... I made a 40-minute video of it, but it still wasn't... There's just so many angles that you can come at it with. I can make it like scripture heavy, or I can just try to keep it more... It's not simple, though. I mean, I can try to make it simple, but Neville's work is much deeper than just getting things. Much, much deeper. And I don't say that as like a to tell you to not get things. I'm just saying it just goes deeper than that. You have to have a desire for it, though. And if you don't, that's fine. That's fine. Honestly, if you don't have a desire for it, there's no worries. Just keep going after what you want, and then maybe one day you'll desire it. How does one persuade themselves to actually say yes to their belief? You don't necessarily have to say yes to it. You have to feel the reality of it. Try to persuade oneself is to believe in what they're imagining is real about themselves. It's like if you practice being something different, at some point there's just it's a certain moment where you're convinced that that's who you are now. And maybe you go back to believing that you were whatever you were before. But you can't deny that you touched something within you that felt real. The more you do that, you become it. Imagine an actor that accidentally believes they are the character. It was an accident. They got so lost in the idea, but they came out of it, and then they went back to their daily life. But let's say they lose themselves again and again and again. Eventually, they take upon the tone of that being that they're imagining themselves as. At some point, something switches. And so you don't necessarily have to say yes to it. You have to feel the reality of what you're doing. Now, Neville gives examples of how to feel the reality. He says first person, try to feel someone's hand, try to touch them, try to hear them congratulate you. Try to add tones of reality to it. That's why he calls it the tones of reality, which is really the senses, because that's how we naturally experience the world that we're in. So we want to mimic the flesh inside of imagination because we're changing imagination. We're almost trying to bridge the gap between the two. Man is almost like a bridge between the imaginal and the physical. And the way you bridge the gap is you make the imagination feel real, just like a dream. What's your rehearsal tweet about? It's really personal. I don't know if I want to share. No, I'll just wait. It's just I'm speaking from experience on these things. When you imagine, do you see it through your eyes in first person? Do you like see yourself from the side? Okay, let's think of it this way. So the question that you're asking is asking more of the specifics, as like, okay, do you see both of your hands, and how real do you see the veins in your hands? That's not the point. The point is to mimic the reality we're in. We already are in a reality when we wake up, right? It's a sustained, let's just call it a sustained reality. It doesn't change that much. Like you wake up, you're in the same bed that you slept in. That'd be crazy if you woke up in someone else's bed, right? Then we got some problems. But the point of the first person is to mimic reality because that's how we experience reality. We experience it first person. It's just to try to mimic reality. That's not to say that you can't imagine third person, but that's not how we experience reality. We don't really experience it from third person. I guess unless you see yourself on a screen or something, right? Like unless you imagine yourself like, on TV, then I guess, to some degree you're seeing yourself like that. But when we experience things, it's from first person. So the goal is just to make imagination like the flesh. Do you read the Bible to understand manifestation better? No, not manifestation. I read the Bible to understand self better. Think of it this way. This is what Neville is saying. Can you take the very words of Christ, that whatsoever you desire, believe you have it and you will, and live as if those are your own words? Or the idea of be anxious about nothing. Can you live as if those are your words, as if you said them? He's trying to make you the central character. He's trying to cast you as a central character in the story to where you become that being. So we cast ourselves as that character and believe that those characters, the words that they spoke, was our words. You know what I'm trying to say? So maybe you're not perfect at it, but you live as if that's your principle of life. It's to the world has called me ugly, and I've never felt so beautiful. You transfigure the thing. You take it and transfigure it into something. I need something. Can I believe I have it before I do? And will me having it bring it about? And if it doesn't, then I guess we tested it and it doesn't work. And then we just move on to something else. But the idea that one can imagine themselves to where it feels real, they take upon that reality of themselves. It is the strangest thing. To me, the reason why I find dreams important, or the idea of it, is because I do it all the time. Naturally, I do it. Do you believe in collective consciousness? Like, what do you mean by collective consciousness? Like, what do you mean? Because, like, do you mean it like a group of people have the same idea, or there's like a mind that's running the show? Like, what do you mean? I believe that we are one being, and we mask ourselves in these bodies. In these bodies, to me, it's just like what Scripture says. They're robes dipped in blood. Where once you start to, if I had to share one thing that I find the most important about Neville's work, and it's not getting stuff, it's that you're the imagination in a body. I can't think of anything more important. You know what? I'm gonna tweet it again just because. Hold on. I don't know how long I'm gonna go on. I can't think of anything more important than that. I think that if you just take that and think about it for a very long time, just contemplate on it, you'll understand not just imagining better. I think you'll start getting visions that will confirm this idea. Because that's how God speaks to us. He speaks to us through dreams and visions. It's not through a man. It's not like through me right now, through Edward. Like you're listening to me. But this is really not how you understand what Neville is saying. You get your own vision. Maybe believing what I'm saying plants the seed within you to to have the vision. But this gospel or this idea doesn't come from a man. There's no flesh and blood that gives it to you. It's revealed within you, and you become self-witness. You become a witness to yourself. But if you think you're the body, then you're going to think of heaven and hell as a body would. You're going to think heaven is just, it's just wine that never makes you puke. You drink too much of it. It's just, hell is just burning in oil, your skin burning in oil, or something like that. And so you start having you just simply have carnal ideas, which I guess nothing's really necessarily bad about it. It's just that over time, it doesn't. At some point, you want the truth. You don't just want pleasure. You don't want just pain. You want the truth. Do you have moments of doubt yourself? Yeah, I used to have a lot more doubt until I stopped realizing the point isn't not to doubt it. And it's not necessarily fully to believe. It's just to feel the reality of what I'm doing. I try to feel the reality of what I'm doing. I go until I feel it's real to me. And if it takes me 5 minutes, it takes me 5 minutes. If it takes me 30 minutes, it took me 30 minutes. I don't try to fully force myself. I just try to feel the reality of what I'm doing. So by that logic, can we read any book to try to understand stuff? Yes and no. I mean, I wouldn't say that I find Scripture to be far more complete than just any book. Because it speaks to something beyond than, like, it's beyond, like, if you look at Willy Wonka, the story of Willy Wonka, I mean, you can see how they're like the personifications of the 7 deadly sins. And how you shouldn't be prideful and how you shouldn't, be wrathful. And that can teach you something about yourself while you're living here. But this is going far deeper than that. This is speaking about being born again. That you're experiencing this. The reason why we have the world we're in, the reason why we shape it the way we do is because of our bodies. Man thinks that he's going to come here and then he's going to stop all the wars. Or he's going to stop, he's going to break the balance between good and evil here. But that's not the case. Because we're in these death bodies. We came here to experience that. It tells you that Jesus Christ took the form of a bondservant to a body of death. Now, how can that not be more of an accurate description of you? Didn't you come into a body? Aren't you in a body of death? Yes, Edward, I love what you're saying here. I used to have some, I don't know what SM means. Some trouble experiencing what I want because I thought I was purely my human body, and then I realized I am the imagination. Everything clicked. Do you teach your close friends about the law too? No, I don't really speak about this with anybody. Not many people are interested. Just being honest. Maybe I'm around the wrong people. I don't know. I've tried to talk about it one time, and you know, it's funny. I brought it up to two people randomly at a party. I didn't bring up Neville, but they started speaking about their own experiences with imagining, and they knew nothing about Neville. They had their own experience. Yeah, one time I imagined, I forgot what it was. It was like they were at a basketball game, the kiss cam thing, you know, the kiss cam. He's like, yeah, we were driving up to the game, and I just kept imagining we were on the kiss cam. I don't know why. I just kept doing it and doing it. And then it happened. He goes, it felt weird. You know, I just ignored it. And then we just kind of moved on from the conversation after that. But yeah, I mean, I bet a lot of people have experiences like that. And you can just say coincidence, and then you just move on. I think at a certain point, you have to be careful, but you should investigate coincidence a bit more. I think so. Do you think all religious texts point to the same thing? Yeah, I think a lot of religious texts are personifications of human experience, and then at the same time, obviously Neville favored the Bible a lot. I mean, we're talking about Neville's work, but do I think that they all point to the same thing? I'd have to study them a bit more to give a more complete answer. I think they're all misinterpreted. Yeah, to a degree. I think that a lot of them are misinterpreted because all of it points to a God on the outside. And then we make up rules. Like this is why I find I'm just being honest. I find a lot of what we do to be nonsense. I think most of what we do, it's really hard to live in a world where it's just filled with nonsense. It just is. It's filled to the brim. It's flooded with nonsense. Because when you think of a God on the outside, then you have to start thinking about how this God sees you. And he's watching you. And he's got eyeballs like you and butt cheeks that he sits down on a throne and sees what you're doing. Right? And he's observing every single thing that you're saying in your head. And then you're like, okay, well, then people project themselves onto that God. Like, oh, this God hates this group of people. But really you hate that group of people, right? And you guys come up with your own different types of temples and different types of worships and different type of robes and your different oils on your heads and your different ash. And it just starts to build and build and build and build. You have all these rules that were just made up because of a God on the outside that might not even exist. And then you realize how serious people take it. And then you realize I'm living in a world that is so made up. It's hard to live in it when you see it. It's just hard. It's like, if I don't buy it, and everyone around me does, you're actually the weird one. You become the one that's weird. But I just try to study scripture, and it tells me that God's name is forever and forever. The name is I Am. There is no other God, no other name. It tells you there are no demons, there are no devils. A house divided will fall. So if you start thinking you're afraid of a demon, you're afraid of a falsehood. There isn't a demon. There's only one God. I'm so sorry. I don't want to do where you guys like give money and then I have to answer. So let's just Let's just kind of hang out. Is this solipsism? No, solipsism is more from the standpoint of solipsism is very, very. I don't want to say the word human, but it's like thinking that you're Edward and I'm Edward. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when I say that there's one imaginal being. Oh, sorry, you didn't have to retract it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to control that. I was just saying I don't want to do that. I'd rather just have like a conversation. But I view it as there's one imagination that we all will wake up into the same being. And this being is imaginal in nature. So that means that we will wake up inside of the body. And we will all wake up to a unity of the self. While on the surface here, there's nothing but diversity of the self. You and I look so different, right? You might be a different gender, taller than me. We all have such a variety of us. But in the depths of ourselves, we're really one being. What do you do about people wishing and imagining things for or about you that aren't true and are the opposite of what is good for you? You have to focus on yourself. Don't focus on what they're doing. What are you imagining? You're imagining focusing on them. What are you imagining? And what do you want to imagine? What do you want to do inside yourself? And what do you want to be inside yourself? Outside of external opinion. It's not like anyone's going to hear you or see you. What's your opinion of fourthfold vision, whether you think it could be done permanently? I don't know. I've only experienced it a few times and I was always brought back here. Can it be done permanently? I don't know. I wouldn't attempt to do that. I would try to figure out life here while we're here. Because then I think you can get too lost in escaping rather than changing. After studying the law for so long, do you still get consumed by outside world or fall into mental spirals? That's like the dance that we're gonna have here. Of course I do. Just because you study the law doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a war. Look at Neville's life. Just look at his life. But yeah, of course you get consumed by it. But you have to come back to self. What do you want to imagine? What do you want to do? What do you want to dream about? You're a dreamer inherently. We think about what we want to eat for the day, but we don't really think about what we want to imagine for the day. And you can transform anything into something positive for yourself at any moment. And you can increase any experience that is good to make it even better. You can always be creative in making things better for yourself at any moment. And you can do it. You can, even with the world being the way it is. It's always been like this. Have you ever had a psychic experience like an intuitive hit or hearing something clearly in your head? No, I've never heard like a different voice like that. I've had visions where they were I I can only call it hyper reality, where it's just like this, but you're way more in tune with everything. Like everything feels the light. You sense the light differently. Over here, you kind of feel the heat, but the light is more than just the heat. It's like there's like a vibration to it and a sound to it. You experience different variations of the same thing. While here, you might just get like one variation. Yeah, remember, if there's no one to change but self, try to take that literally. Because then when you remember, God's name is not He is. Let's just, instead of using the word God, a creative force, let's even dim it down. A creative force in our life that can help create our life. Its name is not He is or she is. It's I am. Right? So once we're thinking about they are or he is or she is, we've left I am. We must come back, and there's no one to change but self. Do you know what you can do about the negative intrusive thought that suddenly pops up into your mind? Something that bad that happened to someone happened to me several times, and it often came true. What do you? I mean, I guess there's a couple ways you can answer that. The first answer would be you would want to learn to be indifferent. It's not really the thought that's the problem. It's that it makes you afraid. It's the fear. And so you're fearing your own thoughts. And so you have to learn to be indifferent, which means to just hold the thought without any judgment or feeling. And then it would just intrude less. And then what you want to do to continue the indifference is to move on to something else, as if you didn't even have the thought. So there's a lot. There's a lot of. What do you think about people / subreddits aggressively trying to disprove the law? It's probably a good thing too, because a lot of times in the disproven you can prove it. It's not really about other people believing it, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like a religion. It's not about other people believing. It's not like if you believe Neville, you're going to go to Neville heaven, and if you don't, you're going to go to Neville hell. Nothing like that's going to happen. Just treat it like an experiment of faith. Now, faith is something. What is faith? Believing in what is unseen before it's seen. That's what we're told God does, and I should imitate Him. So I try to imitate that. It's more of a test than it is a religious belief. Just treat it like a test. If it doesn't work, then either adjust it or move on to something completely different. Really. I'm just interested in this regardless. I've always been interested in it, so I'm going to keep pursuing this. I find imagination to be the most mystical, the most interesting thing in this world. It's more interesting to me than all the gods that I've listened to and been told to worship. It's more interesting than really anything I've studied. I find the imagination to be, I can't understand it. It's so amazing. So you go within yourself and you can dream something right now and feel the reality of it. And if you persist in it, it will come to pass. It is the most extraordinary claim. To me, I can't think of anything more extraordinary. I always ask people this. Do you want more? If you had to pick which one you want, do you want more imaginal power, or do you want 24 karat gold toilets and like a gold Rolls Royce and a gold mansion? Or do you want more imaginal power? If I had to offer you something, I hope you pick imaginal power. Now that should tell you something about yourself. Why would you want that? You have to discover it. You have to keep asking yourself questions. You cannot stop asking yourself questions about yourself. You can't. The moment you stop learning about yourself. There's a lecture called that was Never Stop Questioning. I think he said never stop questioning I am and never stop questioning self. You have to keep asking yourself. Why would I want more imaginal power? If I firmly believe it's nonsense, why would I want more of it? Is there something innate in me that understands its power? Is there? Maybe there isn't. I don't know. We'd have to investigate it. What's your favorite thing to do in the summer, Edward? That's funny. That's funny. It's funny. Favorite thing to do in the summer? I like how those are the questions I can't answer because I don't really know. Favorite thing I like to do in the summer? There's a nice pool by me, so I like to go to the pool. Yeah. I more like the aesthetics. I don't know if there's something I like to do in the summer. I like I like when sunlight comes through the windows in the summertime. Like I like the aesthetic of it more than I do probably what I like to do. I don't know if that's a good answer for you, but yeah, I like the aesthetic of it. I really want to join your members' lives, but the member feature isn't available in my country. What country are you in? I feel you need a Patreon, Pookie. What country doesn't have it? I wonder why I wonder why they do that. I mean, I'm sure it's just like some laws are in place. Is it possible to win the jackpot? I thought that some people have done that. I think it's more. I see. You got to ask yourself, why do you want to win it? What do you want from it? Sometimes people get really upset with certain people. That they hate this person, and I ask myself, what do I want from them? And I realize I want nothing from them. And then I'm like, I don't really hate them. I don't want anything from them. You just ask yourself questions. You really start to discover, what do you want from them or from it? What do you want? What do you think you don't have? Can this teach me something about myself? Neville said, take away the things, but not my power to create the things. Exactly. 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 How long have I been on for? An hour. Hey, Gina. Could manifestations come to pass after we are in this world? I mean, obviously, I don't know, but that would. I wonder if that's a really interesting question because Neville was very much about imagining, even if you don't think it's going to happen, you should just imagine it anyways. Which I'm of the same camp as him. I think you should just imagine things anyways. I really, I treat this, I treat this, honestly, I come at it like a child. I imagine things for the sake of them, for the sake of imagining it, because I want to create it within me. I keep things as simple as I can keep it. I do it because I want to do it. I do it because I like it. The same way I eat food that tastes good to me because I like it. What else am I gonna? What I don't. It's funny. You don't really need to have a deep philosophy behind it. You do it because you want to. I imagine for the sake of imagining because I can. There's I've mentioned this before, but there's the documentary of the guy who walked between the two twin towers. You know, he put the metal rope and walked across, and they asked him why he did it, and his answer was because man can. And I thought that was the perfect answer. Just because he can. The same thing goes for dreaming. Just because I can. I'm going to imagine it because I can. It doesn't have to be more complicated for me to practice it. Now, it wasn't always like that. It was very complicated at first. At first, I was way too hyper-focused. I became a police officer on my own self. Rather than changing, really, what I wanted to dream about, I policed myself. If you could ask Neville one question, what would it be? When you didn't have a nickel in your pocket and you had to feed 4 people, how scared were you? That's what I'd ask him. Some of you guys are funny on here. What are your thoughts on taking action after imagining something? I mean, just do it if you really feel inspired to do it. I'm a firm believer in acting off of inspiration. I'm a deep, firm believer in it. You cannot move a finger of me if I don't really want to. When was that in his life, Ed? That was in the beginning of his life. I think in his 20s when he was, it was either when he was dancing or before he was about to start dancing. It was during the Great Depression. Because he said that he would look around, he realized he didn't have any money and he didn't have it within him to steal some bread. And he would look down the alleyway and he said I was just trying to find God at that point. And so I would imagine if I was in that position, you go out to get food and you come back and you don't have anything for anybody. You cannot have the best feelings. So what do you do with it? You have to do something with it. You have to transfigure this somehow. And so I just would like to know how he handled his fear. I think if I remember correctly, I have to reread it, but I think he started dancing. He got offered a job, and that's how he started making money for. If I'm not mistaken, that's how he started making money for people. I think he was living with 4 people at the time. This was the Great Depression, right? Do you think the Bible contains mysteries that even Neville hasn't fully discovered? I'm sure it does. I think he admitted it does. It's a very interesting book. He said he doesn't understand all of it, and I don't ever claim I would either. I'm also not interested in trying to be a historian about it. Like, I don't believe Christ existed. Um, I don't think that there was a person at all. I think this is a very deep story, and I don't mean deep in the sense like it's thought provoking. I mean it's a story that comes from the depths from within ourselves. I think this is speaking about a man who has awakened, knows their God, but still is living out the human life. That's what I find in Christ. And it's not just a person, it's a power. That's why it says to test yourselves and see if Jesus Christ is within you, unless you fail to meet the test. So we have to test ourselves. How can I test myself? I must repent. Repentance, again, is not feeling guilty and remorse and going to some priest about it. Repentance is a radical change of self, really, of how I see myself. Can I radically change how I see myself, which requires a sense of compassion towards oneself? To make it a fluid movement between seeing myself one way that might not be favorable to myself into a more favorable way requires me to let go of the unfavorable way and to forgive myself, which would require some sense of compassion towards myself. That's why I was saying in the beginning, it's more about what Neville has done, not necessarily what he says, that inspires me. So you want to make it almost your purpose to change what is inside your imagination. Start there in reality. You can start on the outside if you really want to, but try to start within and try to reshape the imagination. Which mystical teacher besides Neville has influenced your understanding the most? You know, I don't really listen to anybody else, if I'm just being honest. I stopped listening to other people a long time ago. No one really comes close as far as teachers go that has impacted me more than Neville. But then again, I was coming from a religious background in a lot of ways, and I was already studying scripture for a long time before Neville. So it was sort of, Neville was like a continuation of my study. And I tried to listen to other teachers that people recommended, but I just never meshed with them for some reason. I just never did. How can you tell the difference between genuinely feeling and trusting your imagination versus desperately trying to convince yourself that you do? Well, I mean, desperation would never breed peace. It would never trust. Try to figure out what trust breeds within you versus what desperation would breed. If I'm desperate, if I'm desperate for you, I'm going to be grabbing your knees, telling you don't leave, don't leave. You know, we're at the mall and I'm being ridiculous and you're trying to leave me. And I'm grabbing your knees. Don't go, don't go, don't go. You know, that's desperation. Trusting would never act like that. So what is it? What do you think trust produces versus what desperation would produce? You know, what about Freedom Barry? That's a good question. I didn't really get inspired by Freedom Barry, to be honest with you. Although one thing he did say, I just really liked when he talked about the alphabet, that there's only one F, but you can use it infinite times. There's an infinite amount of Fs, seeing that there's only one. And I thought, I was like, that's a really good analogy for the imagination. I think that's an amazing analogy for it. I will say that was incredible, but I wouldn't say that I've never walked around sort of thinking about what Freedom Barry said. Besides that, I really don't have anything else where I'm like, okay, that. I guess he also said that you want to stop trying to simply the reason he kind of viewed Eastern religions as this idea of like desiring nothing. He actually didn't like that. He said you should try to test and see if you can gain something in life from imagining. So I thought that was interesting. That he thought it is important that you don't try to go down the route where you just think that you shouldn't get anything. Neville would always say, don't pass the buck to somebody else. I'm guilty of that. where I would just pass the buck to somebody else in my head. Just like, oh, it's for them, it's not for me. I used to always say that. And I still do sometimes, but if I do, I make sure it's my choice and not just like this reaction. I never resonated with Eckhart Tolle for some reason. I know he's extremely famous. I just never really resonated. After a point, you got to stop consuming the law of various methods and implement it yourself. Be a doer, like Neville said. Yeah, because consumption isn't the same thing as changing oneself. I don't even like. I don't know. I don't consume any. It's very weird for me because I produce stuff on imagination and Neville's work, but I actually don't consume any of it from anybody else. So I don't really watch anything that's involved with this sphere of information. I just don't. What I have found is that the best way to practice this and to learn it is what I said in one of my recent videos about someone corrected me. I'm just going to say it my way. The potency of a thought. The potency is more important. If you can make your thoughts more potent, because if you don't imagine for yourself, you're going to let someone else imagine for you. And that can be okay sometimes. It's okay to have someone lead in thought. At some points, though, you need to lead yourself, right? Like, for example, I don't know how true this is, but I just heard that the King of England, it popped up on my phone, and a lot of the members are English, that his life is so pampered, like that he actually doesn't really do anything himself anymore. Because from what I hear, from what I was hearing from one of the guys that I guess worked with him, is that he doesn't even put his own toothpaste on his toothbrush. He doesn't. His shoelaces get ironed. And then this guy was saying that a letter fell in the trash bin, and so he called the guy. The king calls the guy over to grab it from the trash bin and put it on his desk. And all I can think to myself was like, if this is true, this is a really great example of the imagination when it's not being in use. It just becomes incompetent. It's just like, think for me. Everyone think for me. Imagine for me. I don't want to change myself. I don't want to imagine anything for myself. It's a great example of it. I know it's like a reality in our world, but if you just apply it to imagination, it makes a lot of sense. You want to start imagining every day. You want to be purposeful at some degree, at some point in your day. Just be a little bit purposeful in what you feel the reality of. And it can also be in indifference to a thought. Let's say you can also be purposeful in certain ideas that you don't like that you've been having, and try to be indifferent to them. Try to hold them without a judgment, without a reaction, without any self-judgment, without anything. Just hold the thought and move on from it as if you didn't have it. Do you like Rupert Spria? I don't know who that is. So I don't know them. So no, I don't listen to them. Why do most people struggle to discuss the old man in detail? What do you mean by that? What do you mean the old man in detail? How do I trust my imagination? Well, I mean, I recently said in a video, it's about feeling the reality of certain things within you that you want to imagine. You gain trust really by, in my view, by feeling the reality of what you're doing. Because it feels true when you feel the reality of it, and you naturally will start trusting it more and more. I never look for the evidence outside of myself anymore. I don't imagine something and then peek and just keep looking to see if there's any movement. What I've realized is that I can't come up with the means, so I just let the means reveal themselves to me. It's almost like a revealing. It's the only way I can describe it. It's like a flower growing. You don't start picking at it to reveal the petals unless you're a psychopath. You let it grow by itself. And I guess if it does need some help, you give it some help, but usually you want to let things kind of be the way they are. What are your thoughts on symbolic imagination instead of imagining real life scenarios? For example, instead of someone congratulating you on congratulating you on being wealthy, you imagine it's raining money or something. If it works, if it's working for you, then do it. I actually think taking it not just in trying to create something, but in understanding what you're imagining, I actually do think that people in our minds are symbols. They're aspects of ourselves. Because they're rooted in us. So if someone in your life made you feel powerless and you imagine them later in your life, in your mind, you can think that it's just a symbol of your powerlessness. You actually don't have to remain there and be powerless. It's just a symbol. They represent, they almost are a personification of what you're feeling yourself to be. But if it works, then do it. I feel like I understand the feeling of reality more. It's quite mundane. Really? I actually find it to be the opposite. I find that when you touch a dream, it's the most exciting. Especially when it gets to a level of vision. Because the difference between a dream is that dreams feel chaotic, but when they're sustained and they feel real, you really have to wonder what the world we're in is. You know, it opens up so many questions. Sorry for asking again. How are you all in me right now? I wouldn't think of it like that. You're thinking of it from your perspective. I'm not you. We're two different people. Let's just keep it simple. We're two different people, but we share the same imagination, if you will. And if we discover that imagination to be us, then yeah, when we hurt each other, we are hurting ourselves. Just following the logic. Oh, I meant mundane, like everyday natural, not fantastical. Yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah, exactly. It's funny because my first response in my head was, because I heard mundane, I went, that's a good thing because then it's normal. And then I thought, well, do you mean mundane like boring? I went, really? It's boring? So yeah, I agree. It's a good thing. It's very mundane. It shouldn't be It should be something more in reach than some crazy something that we can't even do. It's like, no, we can do it. We can do it, and we can trust in it. A lot of times people do already do it. Like, there are people out there who know nothing about Neville, nothing at all, never read anything about him or the Bible, and doesn't even know what the Bible is, don't even know who Neville is, and they imagine. You don't have to know this stuff to imagine. There are people I've talked to where they gained the success they wanted in life, and obviously that's very subjective, but they gained the success that they wanted, and they tell me that they would dream of these things when they were teenagers all the time. In my 20s, every night I was dreaming this, or I was imagining it without really, it was always before bed, or throughout my day I would just imagine myself as this way, and they didn't know Neville. So you don't have to know Neville. Neville just helps you trust yourself. He helps you feel the reality of what you're doing. He encourages you. But you don't actually have to know him to do it. I mean, I was imagining before him. That's why I was even interested in Neville, because I was already doing it before him. I used to imagine speaking to a crowd of people all the time. All the time. That's what I meant by rehearse. I would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. I had no reason at all. I didn't need a reason. I needed to imagine it. And I would imagine it over and over again. All the time, for years. No signs of it. Just kept doing it. And they say people's attention spans are bad, but it's not fully true. I spoke for a live stream, I think I did like 6.5 hours, and people were there for the whole 6.5 hours. So it's not that people's attention spans are just terrible. It's that maybe what they're watching is terrible. Maybe they're not being encouraged. Maybe they're not being inspired within themselves. Maybe in fact they're being the opposite. Maybe they're being discouraged from the stuff they're watching. But if you can start changing yourself, you can always trust in that. Einstein said the same thing, that people end up like their dreams. Exactly. We become what we dream about. Everyone has said that. Like, everybody who's ever been anything that about in this sphere has said that in their own. Everyone's repeating the same thing. We're all just repeating the exact same stuff. But sometimes it takes a little bit of rearrangement of words to make it click for somebody. That's why you keep repeating it. But in reality, it's all the same stuff. I think I said the same thing. We become what we dream about. That's just true. But you can dream anything about yourself. So let's try to figure out what we want. What you want to dream about won't have, it will feel genuine, it won't feel fearful, and it will actually inspire growth. It won't inspire shame or fear. So if you're going down that route, you're just going down the wrong route. You're not doing anything wrong, you're just misusing the power. You're misusing it. I used to worry a lot about people not liking me. Really? I'm surprised. You don't seem like you would worry about that. And now I just assume people like me. And yeah, I guess I didn't think that you would ever, that would have never crossed my mind. I know I don't know you that well, but I just, from speaking with you, I never would have thought that. My relationship had become very peaceful. Because it became peaceful with yourself, right? If you're thinking that people don't like you, yeah, you're going to create worry. Worry it's no different than like a tornado inside. It's just like the same thing as the weather being bad. It's you don't want to come outside of yourself. You're going to stay inside. It's just nasty outside, and you don't express yourself the way you want to. And you put on different layers. You got to cover up, right? And the clothes we wear is because it's a symbol of shame. Right? Animals don't really wear. Your dog doesn't. I mean, some people put pants on their dogs, but your dog doesn't. Your dog doesn't really think about it, right? Dogs don't. They don't have that within them.
They don't have shame. Animals don't have it. It's a human thing. I always think that's funny when people put sweaters on their dogs. You were a speaker in your imagination. Yeah, I did it all the time. All the time. Especially when I was bored. And I was really bored growing up. I was extremely bored. And so I entertained myself. But I never entertained myself. It was never just a joke to me. I took it really seriously, what I was imagining. I took it very seriously. It was fun, but I took it seriously. It wasn't just an idea. It was something I said, I'm just going to do it because I want to. And I told nobody. I hid it. Sometimes I was caught. Sometimes sometimes I'd speak out loud as if there were people in front of me. And sometimes I was caught and I felt embarrassed. But it didn't stop me. I just kept doing it. I just kept persisting in it. I didn't know anything about Neville. Nothing at all. That's why he piqued my interest. Because I was like, when I saw he was talking about it, it felt like somebody was talking about what I do, and I hid it from everybody. I felt exposed by him, but then I also liked it because I wanted to know what he thought about that. Because like he's another guy who's probably did the same thing, and then you find out Neville did. He was told that he wasn't going to make $1 with his voice because he had an accent. He said that that was the push he needed because he went home and started to imagine himself on stage over and over again, speaking without notes. He said that ignited him. So the resistance of his teacher actually propelled him forward, which is typically that's what happens in anything in life. He transfigured the comment. You see what I'm trying to say? That's why I said the world calls you ugly, and next thing you know, you've never felt more beautiful. The world tells you can't make a dime, or you can't. No one's going to listen to you. And what did he do? He imagined himself on stage being listened to. He transfigures it, takes it, turns it into something else. He rearranges the vessel, the clay, and he does it all inside of himself. How to go about resistance? Resistance is when obviously it's an internal experience, and internal experiences are done to ourselves. So a resistance is almost like you're implying that there's a different power within you that is fighting you, but it's not. It's just you. Usually resistance is a lack of compassion. It's a lack of feeling free to move without consequence. It's like you think if you move into a better state, there's going to be a consequence for it, or you're not allowed. There's some barrier there, but it's not true. You put the barrier there. It's like having a dream tonight, and then you start asking people in the dream if you can dream something different, and they're like, no, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do it. It's like, but that person's you, or they're at least rooted in you. Edward, any tips for a first date with someone and not getting in your head about the future? Oh no, I'm not a relationship person. I'm not an expert with that. Um, Try to be in the present. Hold on a second. Hold on. I'm gonna be right back. Give me 1 second. Okay. So if you're fear of the future, it's I mean, the future isn't a bad thing, always. And so if you're fearing the future, it's because you fear of something oncoming that is out of your control. Just try to come back to the present. Um, if you can solve things in your present, you'll solve it when it's there. But if you project yourself into a worry, you'll start to act that out in your present because we just start to become what we're imagining. Happened to me with my piano teacher growing up. I was told I would never be a I always mess this up. Pianist. Come on. That's close. That's a close word. I didn't enjoy hearing it, and I was certain he can't say that. 4 months later, he saw me perform and took it back. How did he take it back? What did he say to you? He apologized? That's kind of man, it's hard because that is an aggressive thing to tell somebody, right? But I guess if he takes it back, at least he does have that in him to say that he was wrong. So that's an interesting person. Some people just double down, right? They're like, so. Followed you for several years, but this is my first live stream. Yeah, this was an accident. Casey just showed up. This was just an accident. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm not sure why it's moving over to public. Because I clicked members, but then I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. What is the purpose in life? I mean, that's it's a very intense question. To reduce it down to a sentence that would take a lot of contemplation, it would say that it's to know imagination, to get to know this as a being. Thought this was a special live stream for non-members. Sorry. I mean, it is kind of because it appeared. So, I mean, kind of it is. It was an unplanned special live stream for non-members. Opinions on robotic affirmation and auto-suggestion. It doesn't really make any sense to me, just being honest. That's not to say you can't do it. It's just I need to preface that. I'm not telling people not to do so. I don't know. You can imagine whatever the hell you want. I mean, what am I going to do about it? Yeah, it's public. It was an accident in the beginning. In the beginning it was public. And then he said, let it stay public. So robotic affirmation to me, it doesn't fully make sense because just the idea of it being robotic negates the idea of feeling. And you want to feel what you're not just like think. You can think whatever you want all the time, but like you will act off of what you really feel to be true. I think it's probably some method to get there, but I just think that you can get there a lot quicker if you start to feel the reality of what you're doing. If it feels real to you, you'll start to think it is real about yourself, and you'll start to act that way. All it takes is for someone who thinks they're bad to really start thinking that they're good and start seeing themselves produce good inside themselves, do good for people. They will just start to do it. There's just no question, there's no doubt within me that they would do that. And they would be accepted. There's no doubt within me that they would do that. They don't need to say it over and over again, without, I thought there were some unusual questions. Well, if you look, so the members will have like a colored thing, like their name is colored green. So what we're asking is it gets much deeper than just getting stuff because we die. There's death here. Scripture calls the two enemies are sin and death. The last one's death, that the imaginal man overcomes. So we actually ultimately overcome death. The body might die that we're in, just like you don't. Sometimes you throw away the garment that you wore for a long time, right? You will wear out a robe eventually, and then you have to toss it, get a new one. Now, what Neville is saying is that the new robe you carry, or what Paul is saying too, is that you take upon the heavenly man. You've taken upon the earthly man. There's no question, right? But how did you take upon the earthly man? You were born into it, not really of your own power and own doing, right? And yet you appear here. We don't have control as much as we think we do, because when you fall asleep at night, you don't control everything that comes up, and yet it is you doing it. It's. I've been trying to think about this mystery for years now, and it still baffles me to this day. Have you ever read The Nature of Personal Reality by Seth? I love how it goes into beliefs. I've read parts of it. My friend right now is reading it. I'm not sure. Is that he's reading Seth Speaks. I will say it's interesting. It definitely, out of a lot of things I've read, that Seth thing, whatever the hell it is, it does pique my interest. Even though I'm not necessarily a true believer in the idea of I don't know, channeling aliens or something. I know it's not an alien, but I'm always kind of weary when I hear that kind. I'm always like, oh my god, we're really on a certain territory where I'm like, you got to really convince me right now. You know what I mean? I don't know. It would take a lot for me to take it seriously. But then again, I'm not gonna say that, if what's being said makes a lot of sense. I don't really care what the source is. Not fully, but I'm definitely more. I have caution. He actually said you are a great pianist, and acknowledged that the lessons were not a good test for it. I didn't need that actually. I didn't take his opinion as serious after what he said. After 7 years of mentorship, it was a stupid remark. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, you didn't imagine he believed it. You would have became that. You would have became what he said. But it's not really you, because you could have discarded it and became something else, right? We're not stuck in states. What are you eating? That was just some ice. Have you ever read Rudolf Steiner? No. Yeah, you're going to get that answer a lot from me. If I've read this, that, and the other, I'm going to say no. I don't read a lot like that. I just don't. Like I said, I'm not that interested in this stuff. But I'm really connected to Neville's work for some reason. I haven't figured that out yet, but our states, our identity. They're like a mental outfit that you wear. I don't know if it's that's like saying your boots are your identity. I don't know if the boots are your identity. I think it's just something you wear that can identify you, right? Like a police officer wears a specific outfit to identify himself, but I know a friend. I have a friend who's a state police officer, and when I'm with him, you wouldn't know he is. So, it's just something you're holding as yourself, but it's not fully you. Ultimately. But we retain our identity, which I find fascinating. That's what I find fascinating too. We don't lose our identity in the promise that Neville's talking about. You don't lose it. Like, the only way I can explain is that in the visions that I've had, I'm still me. Like, it's 100% me, but I'm experiencing this. I don't want to just call it a dream because then I'm dismissing it as a dream, but this vision, and it reveals something very profound to me, but it's still me. Like, I know myself as this being that went to school and it's on YouTube, right? That's what I was trying to say, is that it doesn't matter what year I was born in. I saw the same sphere that Blake drew, the same sphere that Neville talked about, the same sphere that Carl Jung drew. I saw the same thing. And I saw it in a time with iPhones and, Wi-Fi, these things. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter what the arrangement of the outside is. Sorry, I got a call. You know what? Hold on. I got to put my phone on. There we go. When did Blake live? He had no concept of an iPhone. I'm sure there are things I don't have a concept of that'll be in the future. It doesn't really matter. The truth was sustained. I should say the truth of the self was sustained. It's just like a puppeteer. Like, man, have you ever seen a puppeteer? Like, some of them are really great, and they can make the puppet look real. I've seen people who are so good with puppets, they'll make the puppet paint something. That's how good they are at it. You think the puppet's alive at this point, but it's not. It's just being animated by the man. Well, what's man being animated by? You just keep going a little bit further down. And you can't go on the outside to figure out the answer. You can't go to some church. You go deeper in yourself. Have you ever read Buddha's teachings and his opinion on how BBLs are the root of human suffering? Is that sarcasm? That's sarcastic, right? I don't think BBLs existed during... I don't know if he knew what that was. Did he know? Did Buddha know what a BBL is? I don't think so. What's your favorite fictional book? I don't read a lot of fiction. The Bible. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I do love the Bible. I know it's not like I'm not calling it fiction, but if I remember correctly, hold on, let me just Google this real quick. Hold on. There's this, like, I don't know, I like the Bible. Okay, so this, if I remember correctly. So there's this really funny moment in the Bible where Gideon has to get an army, and he has an army together, and he has 10,000 men, and he tells them that he has to basically reduce his army down, and the way he does it is he goes, take the men to a pond and have them drink from the pond. He goes, those who kneel and drink it, like they get on the ground and drink it from the pond, like they put their mouth in the water. And then there's going to be men who go and cup it with their hand and drink it from their hand. Take the men that drink from their hand, and don't take the men that get down into the pond. And there's something about that I think that's hilarious. I think that's like one of the I it's so funny to me that there's something about that feels so true. I'm like, yeah, you don't want to get the guys on your team who drink from the pond like they put their mouth in the water. I don't know. I find that hilarious. I know that was stupid. I just found it funny. You don't really hear stuff like that in life. And so I like hearing these kinds of, and I can't find these kinds of stories anywhere else but the Bible. I don't know what it means, but I find that hilarious. I'm like, there's something truthful. If I saw someone, if I take them to the pond to get at water, and they get down and put their mouth in the pond, something unsettling about that. I don't know. I'm just like, you know what? You're not going to be on my team for 21. I'm not playing. I'm not taking you on my team. There's something wrong with that. Like, I don't know. You're supposed to use your hand. You're not going to get down. Oh yeah, I love Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah, Studio Ghibli movies are great. Their movies are great. I often recall dreams that felt more real than waking life and contemplate why the events and people were so familiar and important to me. It isn't money or a job, but the life I led there. Yeah, there's to me, you watch the movie like The Matrix. The Matrix is very anti, it's like kind of the world that we're in, and you're in a society, and it's taught you certain ideas, and these ideas become your programs and all that. But to me, the ultimate matrix would be the body. I think it's the foundation of how we live here. I think we arrange things because of our body, because of because we die. And obviously, the way, like, look at the men in this painting. The wine glass is shaped a certain way because of our hands. So we shape according to our body, the world that we're in. It's obvious. And so to me, I think the ultimate, from just studying scripture, is that the ultimate matrix would be the body. And if the ultimate matrix is the body, then death isn't really a permanent thing. And if death isn't a permanent thing, then the fear starts to dissipate. And you realize you're really an immortal being in a body that is mortal. And if man was unafraid of death, he'd be a completely different being. I always thought Edward was some monk in the Himalayas with Wi-Fi connection. And it humanized him so much to me to know that he also watched Howl's Moving Castle. Yeah, I don't like the image. I don't like the image that people put on me. It's like I've gotten some really weird images, like a monk or like some 19-year-old kid with rich parents on a boat. I saw that one. I was like, why would you think I'm like that? Also saw someone thought I was like 60 something. I'm like, no, I'm not 60. And I don't think anyone would even notice because I do everything that everyone else does. Why wouldn't I? Like, I'm a part of this life too, you know? Of course I watch Studio Ghibli movies. '60 is crazy. That was on the Reddit. I mean, I understand people on Reddit thought I was like old, but so they never heard my voice. And then they heard my voice and they're like, oh, he sounds young. And I was like, oh, really? It kind of made me a little self-conscious. I was like, I sound young. Like, what are we talking about? I don't sound like a little boy. I mean, okay, that's a very vague question. Could you point me in some direction? I've been having a hard time with, you think, okay, I think we should rearrange, or let's reframe the idea of manifesting with changing self. If we can just rearrange it to the point is to change oneself, then I think what happens is it becomes much more doable and more trustworthy than I need to manifest something. I actually don't ever use that word. Think in terms of influencing yourself rather than bringing something about on the outside, because then you're going to get really nervous. But if a change in self results in a change in my life, then I'm going to focus on myself. And I'm going to start rearranging what's in me, in my depths, so that the surface will come different. Do you have anything to say for coaches? For the coaches? No. I don't try to think about what others are doing. Edward sounds like a human male. Well, how would you imagine multiple things at once? The moment I have so many things which are important to me. I would, for me, if you're asking me personally, I go through what's my priority. I go to my number one priority. I go to that. Neville was more like you can imagine them all being fulfilled at once, like you do it in a moment. I find that to be too much. I think in terms of priority. There's always something I prioritize more than others, and so I want to figure out what that is, what's important to me, and start there and bring that about. People love gurus and project their hopes for salvation onto them. It seems disappointing if a wise sage doesn't appear how they think a wise sage should appear. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I never thought Neville should, he shouldn't drink alcohol or something like that. I never thought that. Like, I never really wanted, I just, I could tell he had the same passion for this stuff. I know it's not like common stuff, but we have our own, everyone has their own passions. Okay. This is my passion. And, he had the same one as I do. And, unfortunately he was, he's gone, by the time I was born, but I never really wanted him to be a certain thing. As long as he wasn't doing like some crazy crimes, like, because some lady was like, oh, well, he got divorced. So she closed his book. She was like, I was reading his book and I found out he was divorced. I'm like, I'm not reading this guy. And that wasn't enough to deter me. I mean, I wasn't like, he'd have to do some, if I found out Neville was doing some really weird stuff with like people in his, what he was, the people he was talking to in his, I guess, I don't want to call it church, but something like that. And then I'd be like, okay, yeah, he was clearly using his power to do that. It's unfortunate. I'm not going to, I would take what he said and then apply it differently for myself. But obviously he didn't do that. And I never felt like he needed to be a certain way, but there are people out there who are like that when they find out that you You're never gonna those kinds of people. You would never be enough for them. If you're poor and you're wise, then they'd say, well, then why are you poor? And if you're rich and you're wise, and well, why aren't you poor? Why aren't you rich if you know, and why aren't you more poor if you do know? Why don't you have compassion and be more poor? You're never going to find the balance. You just have to, in my view, try to imagine for the sake of it. Keep your focus on imagining beautiful things for yourself. Just because I knew somebody told me, I started imagining diamonds just because I find them beautiful. And I thought that was the perfect way to imagine. It was something so simple, and the reason to do it was so simple, because you can sustain that for the rest of your life. Neville said he slammed down martinis for lunch and a whole bottle of wine for dinner every night. You have those reversed. He actually slammed a bottle of wine for lunch and did martinis later. That's crazy to me. I could never do that. So that's my point, is that even if he did do that, some people are like, oh, well, he drank a bunch of alcohol, I don't want to listen to him. That's like saying that have you never met a nice person who drinks alcohol? I've met people who have been horrific and they don't drink anything. So I don't know. When I look at my life, I realize I can't judge people off of that. I judge people on how they show up, not necessarily if they're drinking alcohol or not. Maybe because you're so eloquent. That's why they think I'm old. I mean, I do dress like an old person, though. That is true. I do dress old. I wear a lot of vintage clothes. It was just made better. You could just tell. You put it on, you're like, this thing was just made. You could tell it was made with care. I have a very strong attraction to things that I can tell were made and the person really thought about it. I have a hard time resisting that. I remember many years ago, before you made videos, you came off a bit rude on Reddit. Sometimes it's 24/7. 24/7. Sometimes sometime around 2017, and then you changed for good. And I'm glad I still follow you. Look, it's Reddit. I mean, Reddit's an intense place. You read a thread somewhere that pisses you off, and then you join a different thread with that same annoyance that they're unrelated. And yeah, Reddit's not a great place. YouTube is incredible. I know this platform has its problems, but YouTube is an incredible platform if you're trying to talk about something that you are passionate about, because people just are very supportive. In Reddit, you have to prove yourself a lot, which isn't bad. It's just that at a certain point, you're like, okay, you can never prove yourself. But yeah, I found YouTube to be a much better platform than Twitter or Reddit combined. Yeah, I'm glad I joined. I was pushed to join YouTube by a friend, and I'm glad I did. It's easier too to talk than it is to write. Did you manifest one time multiple desires? Did you always go by priority? Okay, I know this is gonna suck when I say this, because it's not a step by step. I honestly would go with what I feel. Sometimes I would imagine something okay, speaking to people publicly, I would imagine speaking to a general amount of people, because I wanted to. And then the next day, maybe I don't do that, and I imagine something that I just would go with you kind of have to be in tune with what you like and what you want, regardless of what the world wants you to want or think. You have to go with what you want. And it takes a discovery, and if you don't know, then you have to figure that out. It's really important that you figure this out, or else you're just going to get told to worship. I was told to worship gods that I didn't know a clue about. I'm like, okay, I guess I got to go take this piece of bread from the Pope, or not the Pope, the priest. And I'm like, why is there a Pope and why is there a priest? And I remember one time I went to confession, and he said, so like, what are your sins? He's asking me my sins. I was a little kid. And I'm like, I don't know. So I started making something up. I said, I yelled at my siblings. I yelled at them. He said, you yelled at them? I said, yeah, I yelled. Why did you yell? Because I was angry. That's what I said, because I was angry at them, and I made up some story. And he believed it. And he goes, okay, go give your Hail Marys and Our Fathers. Give 10 each. I remember I sat there. I went to the pew. I grabbed my rosary, and I looked at it, and I was like, what is, and I had to have been like 5 or 6 years old. I just was thought, how does this make any sense? And, okay, I do it, and then what? Like, I didn't yell at them? Like, I didn't yell at them. I'm like, this whole thing's a lie. And I'm like, this is all a lie. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on. Then they said, don't put the rosary on your head. They said, whatever you do, don't put the rosary around your neck. That's what they told me. First thing I did when I got home, I put it around my neck as quick as I could. I put it on and took it off. Nothing happened. Did it again, nothing happened. And I just tossed it to the side. I went, this is stupid. This is stupid. It's all superstition. It's a bunch of superstition in the world. Horoscopes are superstition. People, they knock on wood because they want to get lucky. Instead of just feeling luck, they have to knock on the wood. You ever see somebody, they look for it. They can't find wood, it's just brick around. They go, oh, we got to go find one. And if they can't find it within the 10 feet from them, they just give up. They go, oh, I was going to knock on wood. I understand it's just a social thing and it doesn't mean anything. It's not serious. But I take it seriously. And I think that's stupid. I think that's stupid that you're going to knock on a piece of wood. That's probably not even real wood. IKEA wood. So does it really work? Probably not. And so I don't like superstitions. I hate superstitions. Sorry, I was going on a rant there. All right, coming back to the chat. So I'm not a fan of, because if you don't believe, it all becomes theatrical. The whole thing becomes, I guess if I could just let go and say, you know what, I'm just going to have fun and I was raised Catholic, so I'm just going to go be Catholic. I'm going to go have fun, and I'm going to go to church and say my Lord, hear our prayers, and I'm just going to have fun. And I wish I could do that. I wish I could just let go and say, I don't care anymore. This is great. I'm going to have a blast here. I'm going to go to like a Protestant church next week, and we're going to have a great time. Or I'm just going to believe in things because it's fun. I don't do that. I can't. If it doesn't make sense to me. And so I want to figure out what is true. And here's the difficult part, is that what I've discovered, what's true, it's an experience. It's an experience within ourselves that's true. You start to experience vision, and it feels more true than anything anyone's ever told you here in this world. Everything that someone tells you here, you kind of question it. This you can't question because you're experiencing it firsthand. You realize truth is an experience within oneself. And you can't get it from man. Truth becomes something you can't follow the world anymore when you want it. Sorry, I'm coming back. I was just going on a rant. Reddit is pretty or petty. People tend to lie for no reason too. Yeah, I know. I was a moderator at one point. I had no idea moderators were just like hated by everybody. I found that out real quick. I had no clue. There was like, hey, you want to be my moderator? You post a lot on the Neville, so I was like, oh, sure, I'll try it, and just like ripped to shreds. No idea. I don't do it anymore. Someone asked me why I don't moderate I haven't moderated for like 4 years. So the people who do it, they work their asses off. I mean, they really do. You got to give them credit. I know that some people get mad at them, but I was a moderator. Those people really work at it. They're always doing something on there. I just couldn't anymore. I got tired of it. And so I just removed myself. I told myself I'm just going to remove myself. You express yourself with a piece that people assume takes many years to arrive at. Oh, that's why they think I'm old. Yeah, I've always got along with older people when I was young. I always did. I always got along with the older people. You sound really hot. Yeah, it's kind of warm where I'm at. I'm glad the heat wave has gone down. Yeah, the church is funny too. Yeah, I wish I could be a part of it and just like, but if I'm not serious about it, I just can't. I can't let go. It's a problem. I just can't let it go. I'm like, nope, I just can't do it. I'm jealous of those people I'm so jealous of them sometimes when the people just let go and they can just kind of be free about it. Can't. Can you please make more meditations? I don't really have any more to make, but I can try to create one. If I do make one, just know I created it really quickly. It's not something that, because I try to create stuff that I've practiced myself. So I don't want to just create something on the spot, but I'll find something. You also don't like traveling, like old people. Yeah, I don't. I'm not a huge fan. All I think about is going on I imagine myself waiting in line with the TSA, and I'm like, that's all I do. And you're just like, am I a criminal? I'm not a criminal. They're like, we don't know that. I'm like, I'm not. They grab my bag and they're like, what is this? And I was like, that's a shoe tree. It's for a shoe. You've never seen a shoe tree before? Because I'm old, apparently, and I put shoe trees in my leather shoes. What's wrong with that? It's so the leather doesn't crease. I take care of my stuff. It's a shoe tree. It's not a weapon. I have nothing in my luggage, but I always think they're gonna pull some sexual toy out, even though like there's nothing in there. I'm always like, I don't know. What if there is? What if they just pull something out? I don't know where that came from. I'm always like terrified of that. The shoe tree story is epic. Yeah, they pull it. What is this? He's like flinging it. You know how like it kind of like, it's kind of like the front of it is like two pieces of wood that clamp together when you put it in the shoe. It's like flopping. He's like, what is this? I'm like, it's just shoe tree. I understand that doesn't exist anymore. No one does that, but I do that. Okay. I just fixed the pencil sharpener because they all suck now. So I got an automatic pencil sharpener from the 1970s that I had to fix because it works better than the modern ones. Yeah, they did. They pulled it all to the side. I had to wait like an hour, and I'm like, wow. Maybe I should say I love traveling so I don't experience like because I go, this is why I hate it, and I went, I thought about what Neville said. He goes, I was waiting in line at the grocery store, and I thought to myself, I always have to wait. And he goes, in that moment, I realized that I was imagining that, and maybe I could have changed it, but I didn't. And I thought the exact same thing when he's flopping. You know how like in movies when someone's talking, you can't hear them. They're just like in the background, but they're doing something. He's flopping it in front of me. I hear, and then, but internally, I'm like, dang, I've been saying I hate it, and now I have a really good reason why I do. Change your traveling assumptions. Yeah, I should. They just pull out a huge dildo one day. Yeah, that's how it feels. Like, wow, like I didn't even know where that was in there. I don't even own that. It's not even my bag. You got the wrong guy. Usually at the end of the stream, where I've been going on for like 2 hours, I just kind of relax. I'll try to answer some more questions, but I usually just kind of after an hour, I usually just try to. I just get tired, so I just try to end it on like a smooth landing. Speaking about travel. Yeah, no one does shoe trees or wears loafers anymore. They do New Balance shoes. That's what everyone's wearing. I have a pair too, but I like the tassels. I like the tassel loafers. What do you think of duality? If it's an experience within ourselves, does that mean the outside isn't real? I don't know if the outside's not real. Real is an interesting word. Again, I always think of it this way. Instead of saying it's not, when people say it's an illusion, it's not real, I don't use those words too much. It's temporary. It's temporary. Like a dream is real. If you're in a dream tonight and you experience, I would say the experience was real, and if it felt very real, it'd be hard to deny it, right? But it was temporary. So it wasn't absolutely real. But what sustained the entire time, I would say it was the self. The self was in the dream, and the self was when it woke up, and the self was in the world, and the self went back into dream world later the night. I would say the self is what is sustained, but the dream itself disappears and morphs and changes, yet it was temporary. So maybe life to me is temporary. Doesn't mean it's not necessarily fake. It's just temporary. It's temporary. Zero drop shoes are very comfortable. You can find the good ones. Yeah, but if I wear zero drop shoes, it'll look weird with my pleated pants. So I got to wear the loafer. Do I walk in the assumption? Sometimes it's about potency. It's not necessarily about being perfect 24/7. It's about when you do imagine, do you imagine it with such potency where it really ignites something within you? If it doesn't, don't worry. But just try to spark yourself a bit. It's called inspiration for a reason. It's an internal spark that happens. It changes you to a degree. And if you're not changed, you just haven't found the right puzzle piece yet. You haven't imagined it correctly yet. Maybe you're imagining what you don't really want, and that's why it's not sparking. But once you really hit it, it's like opens you up. And maybe you go back, or maybe you just do it and then move on. Catch yourself later in the day and you do it again. You'll start to become it. What are some of your hobbies and interests? I draw. I draw. I do drawing. Any new drawings this week? I do have one actually. Here, I'll put it up right here. Well, I don't know if this one's new, but I just did this one. Again, it's just a simple idea. Like whenever there's a plant, it's just becoming what one has imagined. The wine is the transfiguration of the water into wine. It's the mental process of becoming what you want. And from Neville's work, we're using Christ, which is the imagination, the savior of the world. So we use this power to transform ourselves into the being that we want. Why do we have to imagine what we love, but still the ladder experiment works even though no one dreams of climbing the ladder? Well, that's the point. If it works in things I don't really care about, why would it not work in things that I love? Why would I want to create a world I don't really care about? Do you paint the images in your videos? No, those were made with DALL-E. I made that with DALL-E 2 a long time ago, a few years ago. I don't make AI art anymore, but I just was testing it out to see what it was like at the time. It's like it doesn't exist anymore. This was like 3 years ago. But this image here is my own drawing. Like I actually did that. I'm gonna actually do a video on one of the drawings that I've had, so that you can get a better idea of how I explain it. Do you always known how to draw, or did you? I've always kind of known. I was into art when I was a kid, and into calligraphy as a kid. So I kind of just always known. No, I'm self-taught. I didn't take lessons. I wouldn't even call this one that great of an image. To be honest, I don't think that this one's that good. But I think it hits the point home as far as the symbolism of what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying to get a message across. Think of the image as the same thing through me talking. I'm just trying to get an idea across to you. I'm trying to get a feeling, an idea across to you. I'm going to use symbols and imagery instead of just my voice. I've been wanting to become more intimate with my imagination and imaginal scenes. Do you have any practices? Not necessarily practices. I would say take it slow. Give me 1 second. Be right back. Hold on. Okay.
Do you have any advice how to teach Neville to kids? No, I mean I don't have kids. Just inspire their imagination. That's the only thing you have to really do. You don't have to tell them about like the world of death and death bodies and robes dipped in blood. You don't have to do all that. Just inspire their imagination. And then you can inspire them the best by you believing in what you imagine. They'll follow suit. Have you ever been interested in science? Not really, if I'm being honest. So I could say like I'm kind of interested. I'm interested in it, but I think that if I could find more practicality for it in my life, I'd be more interested in it. But I can't. Like, just my life, I guess, isn't set up for that. Like the only way I feel like I would be interested in math is if like I got paid to do math. If I guess it's hard for me to. I would love to get into math, but then I don't know what I would apply it to. So I'm just kind of like in a sort of loss. I just don't know what to do with it. I'm like, okay, I'm studying it, but I don't know what I'm doing with it. So I mean, it's more of like an application thing. Like I remember being in class and it was in calculus, and I used to feel like I guess I just don't know what I'm doing it for, and that would be what would lose my motivation. I think that if I had more of a real life application for it, I think I'd be really into it. I think that's what I'm missing as far as science goes. I would love to apply it. I understand it's applied everywhere in my life because how things are made, but I'm not doing it. Like I was into. I'm a huge fountain pen enthusiast, and I've made my own bespoke pens, not the kit pens, the bespoke ones, and that required some math. That was fun to use, to learn like how to drill and all of that, and using a lathe. But that was fun to apply math there. But I think that if I'm not applying it in something, I kind of lose the motivation. So I wouldn't say I like fully dislike it. But then again, I'm like totally open to it. So I can't say anything. I'm really open to it. It's ironic. I was just trying to learn some math today, actually. And, but I really was asking myself, why am I learning it? Like, what's the point? It's funny that you asked that. How does one hold science in the long? I mean, it'd be no different, right? Science is the exploration of the world and biology of our of our body too. So it's there's nothing wrong with exploring. Think of it this way: like if you woke up in a dream, you would explore the dream, wouldn't you? If tonight you fell asleep, like there's nothing closer to reality than a dream. Nothing that mimics it more. If I had to say it's just like if I had to put a mirror to reality itself, I'd say a dream is the closest I can go. And I guess if you were in a dream, you probably would try to explore it to some degree. So the only time I ever use math, I guess, is like when I'm drawing or making something. But it's like basic math. I'm using like the most basic of math. It's like subtraction and addition.
If you could manifest dinner with Neville and Abdullah, who do you think would pay the bill? Probably Neville. I feel like Neville would pay it. Everyone says I'm his husband, so he's going to pay it. And Abdullah would just let him, so. How do you credit the imagination with reality? You have to just try to read Neville, read the end of 5 Lessons with Neville. Look up Neville 5 Lessons, read the end of it, and he tells you it's just about trying to apply. Maybe you can't visualize them, but can you hear them? Maybe you can't hear them, but can you see them? Can you sense a change in yourself or in them internally? So to credit imagination with reality, I mean, you either apply tones of reality to it, or you start to assume it is reality while you're imagining it, which is actually what Carl Jung did in one of Neville's lectures Neville gave. He talked about him. Carl Jung was imagining some man, and he was going to follow. I don't know if it was a woman or a man. He was going to follow them. And he said, why don't I just credit him with reality? And he credited it with reality, followed him, and it led him to these red books. And he wrote one, right? I don't know if he wrote multiple or one. I haven't really studied him too hard. But, just ask the question, why don't I just credit it with reality? And here's what I love doing. Here's what I love doing. Because I used to always be afraid of imagining something as real. I was always afraid of going crazy. Here's what I would do. That changed everything. I said, I'm going to credit. I asked the same question. Why don't I credit with reality? And I would say, why don't I just do it for 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes. I'm just going to, some part of me wants to believe it's real. So why don't I just do it for a time? If I'm afraid of committing to it completely, why don't I just do it for a time? And I'll come back. No harm done. But I can't deny that there's going to be a change that happens. So what am I really afraid of? If I feel the reality of something and I know it will change me and I don't do it, then what am I really scared of? Scared of a change. For what reason? I mean, there could be plenty of them, but you should never fear the change. Just try to always embrace it. Abdullah would say it's already paid. Yeah, it's funny. Is it possible to be too intensely in imagination? What do you mean by too intensely? Do you like the book of Isaiah? I do. They're all really similar, right? Usually there's a war or a famine. It's all about the mind. The Bible is about the mind. The true famine will happen within ourselves. We won't desire for food or water anymore. We'll desire for the hearing of the word of God. That's the true famine. Now, to the outer man, of course, famine would be food and water. It would be, you have to wonder when you fall into that spot where in life, when you wonder, what do I want? I don't want a bunch of stuff. I don't want, I didn't want a lot of the stuff the world offered, right? People would come up to me with this plate, they give me a plate, and then there would be a priest on it in a church, and they give it to me to eat it. And I'm like, I don't want this. I don't like it. This one tastes bad to me. Oh, okay, sir. Well, we'll rearrange it. We'll make it a mosque. Here you go. And I'm like, I don't want that either. Okay, well, we'll have you. Here's a political opinion. Here you go. And I'm like, I don't want that either. I don't want to eat all this stuff that you're giving me. Mentally, I don't want it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't spark anything within me. So it's like I was very dissatisfied with what my mind was being offered to eat in the world. I wish more people were dissatisfied, but they're completely fine with these fake gods that they worship. They're fine with it. They're completely fine with it. They're so fine with it. It's who they are. They think it's who they are. I didn't want to eat any of this stuff. It didn't taste good to me. It didn't feel good to me after I ate it. And I always wondered about what I want to think, not so much about what I'm being told. I already know what I'm told to think. Maybe I agree with it, maybe I don't. I don't know. Let me investigate myself. Maybe I do think the Catholic God's real. I don't know. Maybe I don't. I don't know. I wasn't ever asked. No one ever asked me if I thought it was real or not. I was just told to believe it. And I suggest a lot of people in this world are like me, where they're just told to believe things. And they do. And they believe them mainly out of survival, not because they wanted to. And so how many people do you know ask themselves, what do I want to believe? Or what do I believe? Not necessarily what I'm acting out, sure, but maybe I could be acting them out because I was taught it. Sorry, I just read a question. It kind of took me off. What do I think about AI? Oh man, that's a that's a interesting and loaded question at this point. I have my ups and downs about it. I can't deny I actually like some of the art that's been created with DALL-E. I do. I think some of it is beautiful. I can't deny that. And then a part of me is also like, I remember somebody a couple of years ago asked ChatGPT a question about Neville, about the army story or something like that. You know what answer it gave? It gave my answer. It probably was like, oh, most popular comment on this topic was this answer, so I'm just going to give it to him as if I said it. And I started reading, I was like, that's my answer from Reddit. It just took my answer. So it's hard for me to be like, well, this thing is intelligent, because it's like, not really, because it took my work, I don't know. Well, I hope you're calling me intelligent because you just called its answer intelligent. That's my answer. Whatever. That's not the point. It's not about me. It's not about that. It's just like, it didn't really produce its own answer. It just copied and pasted something from the internet. And I was like, well, what's the difference between finding my comment and then having that answer to you, my comment? I mean, at that point, it's just like a different avenue of getting the same answer, I guess. So it's like, it's hard. But some of the images that's been produced by it, I do. I feel inspired by some of them. But then again, as an artist, you can get inspired by anything. Literally, I can get inspired by anything. And you know what inspired me a lot in life? Dust. Little dust in the sunlight. That inspired me. I went, wow, I'm breathing that in. You start there, you go, wow, I'm breathing that in. I wonder what's in the dust that I'm always breathing in. I wonder how old it is. And you start to get inspired. You start to go down like a contemplation route. And sometimes the images it produces does the same thing for me. So I don't know if I have you're always going to get very mixed views with me. I'm very hard to be like, this is, unless it's like super immoral or something, I'm going to have a huge problem. But this is like, I don't really know. Like a part of me feels like it's a glorified search engine. And then another, because like I said, it just gave my answer. And another part of me is like, I don't know. I'm more leaning towards if it's always going to do that, then I'm just like, what's the point of it? That's what I'd say. If it's always just going to give you an answer that someone else gave online, it's like, okay, then what's the point of that? That's how I feel. That's how I felt after I read the comment, the answer. I was like, it was word for word. I think it changed up like maybe 2 sentences. I was like, okay, that's not intelligence. That is artificial. That's a good word. That is artificial. So I don't know. I want to rely on man's intelligence. I think there's so much to us that we're not uncovering. I think personally, we are I'm saying as the imagination, we are the most fascinating thing here. I'm not talking about our bodies. This imagination that we are is It's the most fascinating thing. This immaterial thing that mimics material. It is the most fascinating out of all things in the world. I love animals. I love them, but we're more interesting. We are fascinating. We can learn from them, but we're fascinating. You can shoot an animal next to another one and it will still eat the grass like it did, like the other one didn't just drop dead. Right? It's just ridiculous. Like there's something about us that is different. And I'm okay with saying that. Some people find that arrogant. I don't really care. I think we are fascinating beings. I do. You ever listen to a song? You can tell certain songs were made for the artist to get popular, and you can tell certain songs are made with just such beauty that the artist just felt the beauty. That is what makes us special. We transcend not necessarily bad. It's not that bad, but like man's pleasures, like a good coffee or a good wine, are good. But when you experience somebody that creates something out of pure beauty, it transcends all of the man's pleasures. Okay. Well, it's time for me to get off. Been on for a little while. A little longer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, thanks for showing up again. If you've been here the whole time, I appreciate your time. You didn't have to give me 2.5 hours of your day. I do hope it was helpful. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I guess just be on the lookout for new videos, I guess. I'll make some when I'm inspired. I usually don't like to make a video or talk unless I'm inspired. Did you have fun with us, Edward? Yeah, I had fun with you guys. I know I haven't done a public one in a while, but it's probably my favorite one so far. Whenever I imagine I start feeling scared, do you have any suggestions for that? Try to slow the thought down and ask yourself why why are you scaring yourself, and could you show yourself some compassion? Okay, guys. I'm gonna head off. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out for a bit. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else? No. I mean, I guess I can just do my announcements since this will be on the channel. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me change this. Yeah, I mean, I do live streams, of course, and my books are out. I have 2 books. I do one-on-ones for people who want to talk to me. Yeah, I do live streams pretty much every Friday. Why do I have so much tension after imagining? Probably because you don't trust yourself. So you're on the verge of always distrusting yourself. You always feel like you can't trust yourself, so you can't relax with yourself. But okay, you guys take care. I'll be live next Friday. Hope, if you're in the public, I guess if you liked it, hope that I will make another mistake. But I probably won't, to be honest. But okay.
Take care. I'll see you guys. Yeah, I'll see the members next week. I'll see you guys on Friday.